Martin Gallagher arrived at the restaurant 5 minutes early, as was his habit. At 58, punctuality was ingrained in him from decades of running a construction company. This blind date was his sister's doing. She'd been relentless since his wife passed 3 years ago. Just meet her, Martin. Her name is Isabel. She's an architect. You'll have things to talk about. The hostess led him to a table near the window. He ordered water and waited, rehearsing small talk in his head. Then he saw her approaching, and his carefully prepared conversation fled his mind. She moved through the restaurant in a sleek wheelchair, navigating with practiced ease. Mid-40s, he guessed. Dark hair pulled back, warm brown eyes, a cautious but genuine smile. She wore a burgundy blazer that looked professional and elegant. Martin stood instinctively as she reached the table. "Martin," she asked. "I'm Isabel. It's good to meet you," he said, settling back into his seat as she positioned her wheelchair across from him. There was a moment of silence. Martin could feel his sister's voice in his head, all her advice about first dates. None of it seemed to apply now. Isabel broke the silence first. "I should probably address this right away. I use a wheelchair. Car accident 8 years ago. If that's going to be an issue for you, I'd rather know now than waste both our time." Her directness caught him off guard, but he appreciated it. "It's not an issue," Martin said honestly, "though I'll admit I wasn't expecting it. My sister didn't mention it." "She probably didn't know," Isabel said. "My friend who set this up is terrible at details. She just said you were a widower who builds things and might be interesting to talk to." "Well, she got that part right," Martin said with a slight smile. "I do build things. Or I used to. I'm semi-retired now. Sold most of my company last year. Just consult on special projects." "What kind of projects?" "Residential construction mostly. Custom homes. I started as a carpenter 40 years ago and worked my way up." Isabel's face lit up. "That's fascinating. I'm an architect. I design buildings, but I've always envied the people who actually build them. You get to see the structure come to life. I just draw it and hope someone interprets it correctly." And just like that, they were talking. Really talking. Martin told her about a historic home restoration he was consulting on. Isabel showed him photos on her phone of a community center she'd designed, accessible from the ground up, with ramps that felt integrated rather than added on. "Accessibility is my specialty now," she explained. "After my accident, I realized how many buildings are designed without thinking about people like me. Ramps as afterthoughts, elevators hidden in the back, bathrooms that are technically ADA compliant but functionally useless." "I never thought about it that way," Martin admitted. "But you're right. I've built dozens of homes and I always just followed code. Never really considered the actual experience." "Most people don't," Isabel said without judgment, "until they have till the waiter came." They ordered, and the conversation shifted to other topics. Isabel asked about his children. Martin asked about her work. They discovered they both loved old movies, both preferred coffee to tea, both found modern architecture cold and impersonal. An hour passed, then 2. Martin realized he was enjoying himself in a way he hadn't since before his wife got sick. "Can I ask you something?" Isabel said as they finished dessert. "Were you nervous about meeting me? Once you saw the wheelchair?" Martin considered lying, then decided on honesty. "A little. Not because of the wheelchair itself, but because I didn't know how to act, what's appropriate to ask, what's offensive. I didn't want to mess this up." "That's refreshingly honest," Isabel said. "Most people either ignore it completely and act like they don't notice, or they make it the only thing they see. You're doing neither. You're just treating me like a person you're getting to know. That's all I want. That's all any of us want, I think," Martin said quietly. As the evening wound down, Martin walked Isabel to her car, a van with hand controls. She moved to transfer from her wheelchair to the driver's seat with practiced efficiency. "Can I help?" Martin asked. "I've got it," Isabel said. "But thank you for asking instead of just grabbing me. You'd be surprised how many people don't." Once she was settled, she looked at him through the open door. "I had a good time tonight, Martin. Better than I expected." "So did I," he admitted. "Would you like to do this again?" Isabel smiled. "Yes, but next time let me pick the restaurant. I know all the good ones with actual accessible parking." Martin laughed. Deal. Over the next few months, Martin and Isabel saw each other regularly. She introduced him to her world, to the challenges and adaptations he'd never considered. He introduced her to his children, who were surprised and pleased to see their father happy again. One evening, Isabel invited Martin to a presentation she was giving at the Architectural Society about inclusive design. He sat in the audience, watching her command the room with confidence and expertise. She showed before and after photos of buildings, explained how small design choices could make enormous differences in accessibility. After the presentation, an older architect approached her with skepticism. "This is all well and good," he said dismissively, "but it's expensive. Not every client can afford all these modifications." Before Isabel could respond, Martin stood up. "Actually, most of these modifications cost the same or less than traditional designs if you incorporate them from the beginning. I've been in construction for 40 years. The expense comes from retrofitting, not from building it right the first time." The architect looked surprised. Isabel caught Martin's eye and smiled. Later, in the parking lot, she took his hand. "Thank you for defending my work." "I wasn't defending it," Martin said. "I was stating facts. You've taught me so much these past few months. About seeing the world differently, about questioning assumptions I didn't even know I had." "You've taught me things too," Isabel said softly. "That I could trust someone again after my accident. That not everyone sees my wheelchair before they see me. That I'm allowed to want companionship even if it looks different than it did before." 6 months later, Martin stood in Isabel's newly designed office, admiring the space she'd created. Everything was accessible, functional, beautiful. "I've been thinking," he said, "about coming out of retirement, starting a new company focused on accessible residential design, building homes that work for everyone from the ground up." Isabel looked up from her drafting table. "That's a big decision, I know. But working with you, learning from you, has given me purpose again. I thought selling my company would feel like freedom. Instead, it felt like I'd lost my identity. This would give me both. Purpose and the chance to build something that matters." "You'd need an architect," Isabel said, trying to keep her voice neutral. "I would," Martin agreed. "Know anyone good?" She smiled. "I might know someone. But she's very particular about who she works with. Doesn't tolerate shortcuts or excuses." "Perfect," Martin said. "That's exactly who I need." He crossed the room and knelt beside her chair, taking both her hands in his. "Isabel, these past months with you have been the best of my life. Not despite your wheelchair, not because of some inspiration narrative, just because you're brilliant and funny and you challenge me to be better. Will you be my partner? In business and in life?" Isabel's eyes filled with tears. "Martin, are you sure? Being with me means adapting, dealing with accessibility issues, people staring. It's not always easy. Nothing worthwhile ever is," Martin said. "My marriage to my late wife wasn't always easy. Building my company wasn't easy. But they were worth it. You're worth it." "Yes," Isabel whispered. "Yes to all of it." 1 year later, their company had completed 3 fully accessible custom homes. Each one was beautiful and functional, proving that accessibility and aesthetics weren't mutually exclusive. Martin and Isabel stood at a ribbon-cutting ceremony for their latest project, a home for a veteran who'd lost his legs in combat. The veteran wheeled through his new home, tears streaming down his face. "I can reach everything," he kept saying. "It's beautiful and I can actually live in it." Later, driving home, Isabel leaned her head against Martin's shoulder. "We're doing good work," she said. "We are," Martin agreed. "But the best thing I ever built was this, us. Sometimes the most important connections come when we least expect them. Sometimes meeting someone different from ourselves teaches us who we really are. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe. Comment about someone who changed your perspective and helped you grow. Sometimes the best partnerships are built on mutual respect and the courage to see beyond first impressions.